Welcome back, everybody. Just finished the P1 and wanted to give you kind of a walk around, but these are all the 1/8 scale cars that I believe Lego made. Now, there are some F1 cars that have transmissions and stuff, but these are the only 1/8 production cars that I'm aware of. I don't collect any of the smaller ones because I'm kind of running out of room, and I figure if I'm going to go with the good ones, I might as well go with the ones that only have engines and transmissions. So there's a white GT3 Porsche that's out there. That does not have an engine and transmission. It's on the kind of lower economical end. That one has a transmission and an engine, whereas that white one does not. So P1 does, and I'm going to kind of show you some comparisons between all 5 vehicles while we're sitting here. And they're all kind of similar in the way they are built, but they do stay true to each manufacturer. So, for example, on the Bugatti Veyron here, the back does not lift up. There is no lift up on the back. You can't get to the engine, as opposed to the Ferrari, which you can. Now, for example, again, Bugatti has a retractable spoiler. Ferrari does not. One of the differences in kind of these spoilers is the way that they are put up. The Bugatti requires a little tool that you got to get in there, and you kind of have to wiggle around, whereas the P1, all you have to do is go back here and go the other way. There we go. And the spoiler pops up. Pretty neat, right? Now, a really cool thing that this does that is different than the other ones is the doors. The door mechanism is a little bit different because it does do the actual butterfly effect, as opposed to, say, this one. Okay, does a different butterfly effect, so it kind of folds in and down, whereas this one, if we lift it, you can kind of see how it works. It's more of at a 45-degree angle, and it comes up and looks like that. Pretty cool, right? Under the trunk, you've got your typical luggage, and you've got the standard kind of Lego suspension, which is upper and lower wishbone suspension with some coilovers kind of on each side. Again, a little bit different than, say, like the Ferrari, for example. Has a little bit of a different door mechanism. Suspension on all of these is going to be relatively the same. This one, you cannot lift up the engine. Well, the engine is fully functional, and the one thing that I like that is better than all the other ones, and I wish they would do this, is if you can see in there, the engine block and the cylinder walls are the clear plastic. They're the translucent ones. It's not the solid gray ones like the rest of them. They all kind of do that solid gray to it. The Porsche, you can't even see the Porsche one at all. Look at it. But it's there. It's under there. It's all under there. It's all hidden way under there. So just like the rest of them, they do have a working engine. It is appropriate to the vehicle. Transmission also works. So in the typical fashion of all of these, you have a shifter that is a 3-position shifter. You get a middle, forward, and reverse, and it does work, by the way. The gears do move back and forth underneath. And you also have a flappy pedal shift mechanism. That does work. It does take a little bit of a force to get it to work, but these are all the same in that regard. They have flappy pedals, and they allow you to shift gears that actually do work and impact the wheels. So the wheel speed and all that good jazz. So here it is, complete. I'll show you the underneath here in just a second. Just kind of wanted to show you all the differences between all the ones out there. They're almost exactly the same size. They do stay true to the manufacturer, so the engines are the same for the manufacturer, so they are different per manufacturer, but the transmissions, I believe, are the same. So you can correct me down and below, tell me I'm an idiot and all sorts of good stuff here down below. Tell me I'm wrong, and that's okay, but I think the transmissions are the same. They're all working, and they do require that little flappy paddle to shift. Cool colors. They'll come in these kind of bright neon colors, but this is the McLaren kind of orangish yellow color. Let's flip her over, and we'll take a look on the underside. I do not have a wall mount for this one yet. I do have a wall mount for the rest of the guys, but not these yet. So here we go. Underneath, all done. Working transmission. So here is the part where it connects up through the floorboard. Here you've got the flappy paddle part, and then your drive shaft that goes all the way through. It kind of does one of these like switcheroo things where it kind of comes up and then comes back for engine power. So pretty neat. Here's your mechanism for your spoiler. It's got a worm gear here. But yeah, there she is underneath. It all works. It's pretty neat. To articulate it is pretty hard with one hand. But here you've got your working gear train that moves the tires, just like so, which also then feeds to the transmission. Again, the cool part is the transmission is translucent. The other ones are not. It's kind of a bit of a bummer that the other ones aren't, because I do like to watch the pistons go up and down. I think it's pretty neat. So, you know, here, for example, I lifted it off this time. So, here's the Lamborghini. Very cool valve covers. But if you notice, the pistons, see the piston block there is gray, stark gray. You can't see inside, which is it's a bit of a bummer. Again, I think it's neat. But overall, I do prefer the clear ones. A little bit different suspension setup. So all the suspensions are slightly different based on the vehicle, but they do have this kind of traditional wishbone style with a inboard spring. So this one has its own special wishbone. For example, this one has its own dedicated wishbone. That's even more different than the other ones. Look at the Ferrari. Ferrari has upper and lower suspension and does not have custom wishbone parts. So neat, right? Everything is just slightly different, and you can kind of see the iteration as things are built. Things are getting slightly different. Things are improving with wishbone, custom pieces, and a few other things too. So anyway, this is the overview. If you want to skip ahead, you know, that's totally fine. You don't need to watch the rest of the video if you don't want to, but you can kind of see the in-process video as we go forward. So anyway, thanks for joining me, and yeah, have a good day. Let's see what's inside the box itself, and if you were lucky enough to purchase one of these during their gift with purchase, or GWP, you got this neat little rotating P1 logo set that comes with it. 178 pieces. This is a freebie that came with it, and I'm already seeing these going for pretty big bucks on eBay and whatnot, so I may not build this and let some other person have it for a nice price. We'll see. But box itself, 1/8 scale, pretty cool stuff. Let's take a little spin. Not a whole lot as far as the outside is concerned. This is upside down, but you can see the P1 logo. And on the inside, we're going to flip it up, and then we're going to lift the top up, and I'll show you what's inside. And of course, in true Lego fashion, there's always something, mysterious, or they always kind of hide a couple things. So on the inside, this might be hard to see, but there are a couple signatures, most likely of designers. You've got the McLaren F1 logo, and then a whole bunch of other signatures that I do not recognize. So otherwise, inside of the top of the box, which was upside down just a second ago, and that is the inside of that. Now, once you pull the top off, we've got a very cool top shot of the P1, and it lift up the first flap. Now it kind of gives you a view of the inside of what you're building, and then kind of a cool action shot. The flap is actually integrated into the boxes themselves. So on this side, we've got another kind of action shot of the actual car, or kind of with its cool butterfly wings, and then you've got the Lego version here. So what you've got is a kind of top-down Lego view, box 1, 2, and 3, I believe. So this is box 1, and this one just comes out like every other box. This is the first one. I've got some cool art on it, but labeled 01. And then you've got your instructions down on each side. But these flaps that you see are integrated into the box itself. Okay, kind of like so. So you do have to be a little careful pulling them out. You don't want to rip them too badly, but they do come apart. So they will, just like this, will pop out if you want it to. And on the inside, you've got your instructions here on the inside. So from here on out, I think what I'll do is I'll show you the last box here, and then what I will do is I will show you some interesting parts of the build. We don't have to go through the whole thing. It's kind of boring to watch me do the whole thing, but I'll kind of show you some interesting points along the way. So let me show you the final box 3. Box 3. So you can just kind of get a sense of what it looks like. Of course, numbered like the rest, and then the flap integrated just through some little slots in the box. And then it looks like if you were to put these all together, which makes a whole lot of sense now, if you put them together, you get yourself 1, 2, and then there's the third one over here. Cool little side shot if you want to display it that way. So now, just like all the other 8th scale versions of these cars, you get some pretty hefty manuals. In this one, there are 2 of them. And the first 50 pages or so are some history, a bunch of photos, kind of how things were built, how they were put together, and then talking to the designer. Looks like there's French, English, and French and English. Looks like the 2 languages that are in it, and pretty standard with these. They tend to be getting a little bit longer. I've noticed the more of these really complicated 1/8 scale version cars, they tend to get a little bit more complicated in this introduction. So you get a little bit more history. Obviously Lego being the world's largest tire manufacturer in the world, just by volume alone. So so in these instruction manuals, again, pretty good. The difference between, say, Rivendell, which is right here, and these Technic sets, and the reason why there's so much more to these Technic sets than, say, even Rivendell with twice the number of pieces, is the instructions and the parts that you do tend to be a bit smaller, and they'll take up a whole entire page because of the complexity to show you, hey, this part goes into over here, for example. So you're going to get a lot smaller steps broken up into smaller chunks. So I think that is kind of one of the things that I think with the instructions that is a difference between, even though Rivendell, say, is a set that is twice the size of this one. So that's my wife's Rivendell that she's working on at the moment, and then kind of doing a parallel play thing here where I get to build my P1 and she gets to build her Rivendell. So everybody wins. Now, as far as interesting part of the build, I'm not going to show you every part of it, but some very interesting things. And in this particular one, we've got kind of the back half of the vehicle complete, and kind of interesting pieces of note. We've got the exhaust, which is neat. We've kind of got the chrome, look like exhaust, probably mufflers that they're using some, trying to make it look like gold foil. But one of the interesting things about this particular set that is different than all the other 8th scale models that is out there is this one has clear cylinders. Okay, every other car has had those dark medium gray cylinders that you can't see, and you can only see the pistons. But in this case, you can watch the pistons go up and down, which is pretty neat. So along with all the other architecture that goes with it, now I have not connected the drive shaft to the input shaft from the engine and transmission, so they do not spin at the same time. But so this one is the differential, or drive shaft in this case, and this one happens to be the engine and transmission shaft. So that I'm guessing at some point these will have to touch each other and then help each other spin at the same time. You've got one set of shift levers here, if you're familiar with these sets, and then you've got another set of shift levers here that run the transmission, which is all under here. So I don't want to give away too much because, hey, if you're going to build this thing, really should be your enjoyment. So I just kind of want to give you some fun aspects to it, where I'm not giving away the build too much, because that's half the fun. You get to see it kind of come together. But we've got suspension with upper and lower control arms, and this is going to be the disc brake kind of holder. So it's going to be the caliper is going to be held here, at least the little blade that represents the caliper. But yeah, upper and lower wishbone suspension, pretty neat. It does work. And again, The clear cylinders. It is so cool to watch this thing just kind of move away, right? And the gears do work. You can, I'm assuming they will shift them probably through a shaft like Mia that kind of goes through here into the kind of front half of the chassis. That would be my guess at this point. So anyway, just thought I would stop here and kind of show you the running gear of the McLaren P1. On to the next interesting part. All right, here we are into our kind of next milestone of sorts. The seats have gone in. Our shifter has gone in, although I do see in here there's actually two shifters. If I can kind of show you, you can kind of see this little guy right underneath the console moves too, and I'm not 100% sure as to why, because this one under here moves that rotating this kind of back and forth gear to engage different gears, which engages the front gear, or in this case it's the rear one, and they all are connected. So you know, you can spin this and the little pistons will move, and you can move the gear, and then that works too. And then also we've got the little flipper paddles, which work, and they do have a limit to them, so you can see them working as they're shifting gears. So they actually do work, just like all the other models that are out there. So the other thing that is a bit of a milestone here, if I can get some better light onto it, is the door mechanism. So I'm not 100% sure how this is going to work out yet, but we've got a spring mechanism here with like a shock absorber of some sort, and it looks like it does flip. I'm not sure exactly how that's going to work. Maybe in the next bag they'll show us how it works. But anyway, interesting milestone, connecting the front and then the rear running gear with the transmission and the flappy paddles. All right, next milestone would be box 2. So it's kind of interesting because box 1 was most of the, or actually all of the entire first instruction book, and then a good chunk of the second. There are only 2. But interestingly enough, the rest of box 1 was basically kind of everything forward. We have the door mechanism down here, which goes up and down, kind of like so. I'm not 100% sure how this is going to work just yet, but hopefully it will. But that is essentially how it works. Kind of comes up, probably going to butterfly at some point. Not exactly sure, but, you know, looking forward to that as it goes along. Let's see. One-handed. There we go. One-handed. Okay. First try. But what's interesting is the front area was all one piece. This kind of drops in. You can kind of see the border and the boundary here. But basically, the front running gear is, you know, not driven by the engine at all, but has a steering wheel component, and then upper and lower wishbone suspension, and then has a spring on top of it, just like a kind of conventional suspension you would find in a real car. But it's interesting because this whole section is actually one piece. You drop it in and then kind of bolt everything into it. But here is the front trunk section called the frunk. A lot of mid-engine cars and rear-engine cars have these. Very, very common, but yeah. Notice that it is not easy to carry from here, but if you pick it up from here, from this area, there's a cross brace here. Hopefully that can be seen. That is a little bit easier to pick it up and carry with more solid. So anyway, onward and upward. All right, so after bag 19 and 18, we get a couple new things and a couple milestones here. I think we get both fenders, both headlights on the vehicle, and we have a hood, which is held up by a prop. See if I can do this one-handed. Let's see if I can do it. Here we go. Here we go. Excellent. Did it. Okay, so frunk area, or front trunk, if you're not familiar. Put our little prop down. There we go. And the other thing we have is the door, and I was curious to know how this was going to work. And it's pretty cool because it butterflies. It doesn't Lambo. Lambo does this, right? The door kind of comes out and swings up and then does this. Whereas this one kind of butterflies, and I'll show you what it looks like. So Lambo doors kind of come out and then up, whereas butterfly doors, like on the McLaren and a few other vehicles, do this. So they kind of go like this, straight out. And it sort of looks like a butterfly wings when you got both of them out in position. Pretty cool little mechanism. I'll show you how the mechanism works here. So we've got here, I'll give you a full rotation. You've got a number of pieces down here that aid in keeping this in place, in situ, if you want to call it that. And then it rotates down into place. Very, very cool. Very impressed with the way this mechanism works. Here is the mechanism without the door. And then we'll get the door on this side. You can kind of see how the mechanism kind of rotates up, and then the rotation for the door itself is handled by the door connection. So this part is handled, so the upward motion of it is handled by this mechanism here. Very cool stuff. Very cool. Really love the engineering here. They kind of compacted it into one little area. So, cool milestone. Really like this. Another door is probably going to be in bag 20. But very cool. Stays up on its own. Does the butterfly effect. Very impressed.